Welcome to Christian Warrior Training. My name is Keith, and in this episode, we're going to talk to Nick. Nick is on my church security team, and we just changed our qualification up, which you can see. You can see our new qualification in this video right here, and or actually in this video, wrong side. In that video, we changed everything up to where there's a little bit more movement going on with shooting, and Nick has served on our team forever. Nick, obviously, confined to a wheelchair. But he's probably one of the best shooters we have on our team, right? And he just did our qualification, which as we talk, I'm probably going to put some B-roll up of Nick shooting in our qualification. And by far, Nick is one of the best shooters on the team, and he's tactically inclined. So you'll see in our qualification, we involve shooting and moving, and we're doing that because if you're in a gunfight, you shouldn't be sitting still. You should be moving. And as an instructor, I've only taught law enforcement, SWAT teams, narcotics units. I've never even thought about what happens if I have to train somebody in a confined to a wheelchair. How do I do that? And then Nick comes along. We need to qualify Nick. And I started thinking, Nick has done so well. Nick is actually going to train us and going to tell us what people are, the way people can get through these, not just the qualification, but how he stores his pistol, how he can shoot and move, and how he can do these different things while confined to a wheelchair. And so we're going to talk to Nick, and we're going to have him teach us some stuff. All right. So Nick, you haven't always been confined to a wheelchair, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So
how old were you when this happened?
15. Wrecked a dirt bike when I was 15.
Oh. And we always think to ourselves, I'm so lucky that I never did like X, because we all do stupid things.
Yeah.
Were you shooting before then?
Yeah, so I grew up shooting rifle since I was about 4 years old in a BB gun. But I didn't start shooting pistol till I was early 20s.
And what got you interested in shooting pistol?
Actually, started concealed carrying, and having grown up shooting rifles, I was pretty good with the rifle. I was horrible with pistol. None of it.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
you're really good now.
None of the rifle translated to pistol for me, and so for quite a long time, I was never very good at all, and I just got tired of being bad. So I said, "All right, I'm going to give rifle a break for a little bit and really focus on some pistol skills," and just sort of made a concerted effort to improve there.
All right, so Nick, like people in a chair, they're going to watch this, and they're going to look at you, and they're like, "I want to be like Nick." Because Nick is a good shooter, and we do want people to be like you, right? Sure. So when you're confined to a wheelchair, where should people, if people are watching this and they're like, I want to do the same thing, why don't you tell us where you carry your gun, where people can carry a gun?
Sure.
Like, where would that look like? Yeah,
so I've looked, and there's a couple YouTube videos on guys in chairs, but it's very, very limited. And so not a lot of information out there. And so when you're trying to carry in a chair, every injury is different. And so people will be struggling with different, levels of ability. So I've tried a lot to carry somewhere on my body, like an able-bodied person would. Mm-hmm. But A, my chair is fit so tight, there isn't room. And then B, not having any sensation from the chest down, you can get pressure sores real fast trying to do something like that. So
pressure sores. What's a pressure sore?
So if you have something pushing on your body for too long or rubbing a sore on it, you won't know, and it'll actually make a very serious injury.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people in chairs who are paraplegic, quadriplegic, whatever, pressure sores are a very legit issue. So it's really not very safe to try to carry somewhere on your body, because that holster, you're trying to carry appendix or on the side, inside the waistband, you get those pressure points, right? So if you're in a chair, you don't know that. And so it'll actually rub a sore on your body.
It's an interesting point. You're right, because so I have a new concealed carry pistol I've been carrying around.
Yeah.
And it's got a very aggressive grip texture.
Yeah.
And
and
if I'm not wearing a shirt, I at least know oh man, that's getting a little raw, and I pull it out, or I take it out and set it down for a minute.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that.
So that can be very dangerous depending on your situation. I mean, if you do have sensory, down there, then you can try. But again, it's usually a space issue. So I've actually mounted a holster under my chair.
Okay. And we'll throw B-roll in there to show you drawing
so
out.
I actually just changed that. So I used to have a dedicated holster mounted under there, and it's a giant pain trying to get a holster mounted under there.
Yeah.
But I just use Safariland's QLS system, so I can swap out holsters easily.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
So I can.
That's how you do. Okay, I was thinking it was in a bag or something. That's
no. So it's a Kydex holster.
We'll take video and put B-roll in there so people can see that.
So it's a Kydex holster with a QLS port. And now I can throw my 17 under there. I can throw a 43 under there. I can put whatever I want.
So before we started shooting, one of the things I wanted to see is what he was sweeping when he pulled it out, because you do have to worry about shooting yourself, because I mean, it does happen, right? And so I wanted you to demonstrate it. And as you pulled it out, you're like, yeah, I sweep my foot. Well, as we went out to the range and we watch people as they're drawing, they sweep their leg a little bit. It's you sweeping your leg coming out from that is no different than some of the people when they do their draw from the waistband and coming out. It's the same very fraction of a second as they come up, transition up, and move out.
And it happens that your muzzle's actually sweeping right between your feet.
Yeah.
So you may sweep a toe, you may sweep the side of your foot, but again, technique, keeping this out of the trigger guard.
Yeah, indexing
until you're presenting.
Interesting. Yeah. So we also talked about off camera. Because we had this long conversation. I have another friend that's a police officer that is actually paralyzed from the chest down, and he actually just has a Kydex holster mounted to the side of his wheelchair that everybody sees. But it makes me nervous because there's no retention, and somebody can come up, grab the gun, which we know is an issue. I mean, you can use. I'll be doing a video shortly on alien gear. They have a good triple threat retention holster that would be okay with that, but there is a point where you don't want everybody to see you have a gun. You do want some form of concealment, just because you want to be a gray man. You don't want everybody to see it. And we're in church security. You don't want everybody in church rolling around seeing you having a gun, because it is a place of peace, even though everybody's carrying. I mean, everybody.
I've always thought my greatest advantage was somebody's underestimation of me being in a chair. And so, if I got a great big gun hanging off the side of my holster, holster off the side of my chair, obviously that's going to draw attention. And so, what are the chances that a dude in a chair are going to be carrying? Probably not great. And so I just as soon keep that in my back pocket.
So on my other channel, 2A Cops Supporting Gun Rights, we're going to do a video on open carrying. And certainly we want you to exercise a constitutional right, but you also don't want to draw attention to yourself. If I saw you open carrying a pistol on the side, I'd be like, and I want to do harm to my church, I would look at you and go, that guy's a threat. Because the way it's mounted, the way it is, he knows what he's doing. So one of the things that I like about Nick is that we do training in our church about shoot and move. And we'll be in the church and we will practice room entries and stuff like that. Get people that usually wouldn't do room entries a chance to do that. Nick moved through there like nobody's business, because you mentioned it earlier on the gravel. You were having a hard time on the gravel out here because it's binding you down. It was coasting. He'll coast. And he'll go so fast while he's holding his gun, but he's maintaining a straight line because he'll switch and go forward and switches. He doesn't, and it's very honestly, he's going faster than most guys can run. And we're going to set up airsoft in our church so he has a chance to shoot within the church so we can see what that looks like. But
it's actually a little bit easier for me to shoot on the move than most people, because when you're stepping, you're doing this.
Yes.
Right? When I'm coasting in a straight line, so I just have to move laterally.
You're right.
So it's a lot easier for me to shoot moving, as long as I'm not in gravel. I don't gunfight in gravel, so. But
I see what you're saying. You bring up a lot of points I never even thought about. You actually have certainly I have an advantage over you in some respects, but I think you have an advantage over me in some others.
Good.
Another thing is you can carry a lot bigger gun concealed than I mean, I can't carry my Glock 34 concealed without it really printing and sticking out. To be honest, I didn't even notice a handgun down there till I knew you had it. It just, the color of it and everything, it just blends in. It's just natural. And I didn't think about, as you were going forward, because I was watching you go, as you're going down the hall and you got your gun out, I was thinking, in my mind, I wasn't thinking about the rise and fall. I was just thinking, man, he looks so smooth. In fact, so for Nick knows this, but I do train cops for a living. And one of the things I did is I videotaped him doing what he's doing so I can show it to people that aren't in a chair and say, like, but he's doing so much better than you. Why can you not figure this tactic out? And it's, you're doing great, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, so somebody that, let's say somebody is in a chair and they're hesitant to, they just haven't thought about carrying concealed. They haven't thought about the things that you've obviously been thinking about and doing. What would you say to those people that their next step should be?
Sure. You know, I mean, carrying a gun for anybody's a huge responsibility. So before you start carrying, make sure you're competent, you're trained, gone through all your classes. You know, that's really the first step. And then figuring out what's going to work for you based on your chair, what gun you want to carry. Honestly, the hardest part trying to get going is mounting a holster under your chair, because every chair is different. Like, there isn't a set holster mount for a wheelchair. This happened to be the most difficult chair to mount a holster under that I've had. So that takes some time trying to figure out, because you've got, you know, trying to get the position, the pistol in a position where it's a natural, you know, hit your hand right in the web, just like you would drawing off your hip, trying to get the pistol position there to where when you reach under, you can consistently grab it. Trying to get your holster position there and then mount it is definitely the hardest part. But once you have that, the rest of it's, you know.
And then it's range time. Yep. It's like going to the range and practicing. What would you say to instructors? So I'm an instructor. I never even thought about it. It just never even crossed my mind. What would you tell to the instructors that haven't thought about this, about what they should be doing to help people in a chair?
Sure. You know, you're going to have to work a lot with that person, you know. So the other thing I struggle with, especially on uneven terrain, is like, you know, I may stop rolling, you know, out here on the gravel, and as I'm presenting, my chair is going to move. And so you're having to compensate for that. You can't plant your feet and not move. Plus, like, I don't have abdominal muscles, so I'm very unstable. So recoil management is actually far more difficult, not having any trunk support.
Never even thought of that.
Yeah. So
these things we take advantage,
exactly.
Like we take for granted.
Yeah. So trying to absorb some of that in your arms a little bit, because it's wanting to push your core all over the place, and you don't have the muscles to fight that. So,
interesting.
You know, every person's going to be different. Like, if they're a really low injury, they may have some stomach muscles. They may have a lot more ability to control their core. If they're higher, like, they're going to have even less. So, you know, you're going to have to work with the individual to figure out what they're comfortable with, what they can do, and then how to do it. Like, you know, if you don't have enough core stability, you may have to hold on with one hand and then only shoot. You know, you may have to stabilize yourself with one hand and then shoot strong hand only, or something like that.
Interesting. I never even thought about it. Honestly, I never even crossed my mind. I mean, as you're explaining this, I'm thinking about all the muscles I use for stability. And it's stuff we take for granted. We don't think about it. You just do it.
Yeah.
Nick is a mechanical engineer, so I'm sure you use some of that skill to put together what you're thinking.
Right.
Maybe holster manufacturers should step up. Safari Land, Alien Gear, some of the other companies. Alien Gear, we're in Idaho, man. You know, maybe they should figure out mounts. You know, now, could the mount be the same for every wheelchair, or is it all going to be different?
Not necessarily. So the hard part is, you know, for example, so I took that QLS system and the plate that you would normally mount to your leg rig.
Yeah.
I mounted that to an aluminum plate, and then I had to figure out how to get that aluminum plate mounted up underneath my chair. This chair is probably the hardest chair to mount something to, just because of the way it's sort of configured. So we would have to take a look and see if there would be some way to sort of commonize that. I've never looked at it from that perspective. Make it a little easier.
Cool. Well, Nick, I appreciate your time, buddy.
Yeah,
you're doing honestly, you're a role model for a lot of people. You're doing really good. You're a phenomenal shooter. You're a great tactician. We're lucky to have you, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. All right.